Hello, Clark, and welcome to the Busy Fit World podcast. Thank you again so much for your time to be here today. One of the first things that I want to thank you for is serving our country, for being United States Marine. I really appreciate your service.
Well, it's my pleasure. I love being a Marine, and I'm excited to be here. So I'm ready to jump into this thing in the deep end of the pool with both feet, all of those different words and things we use to describe just going all in on this.
100%. And I also wanted to say happy belated birthday. I know that you just had a big one in October.
Yeah, 59, man. I never in my life thought I'd be 59 years old, but I've never felt better in my life than I feel at 59 years old. And that's a true statement.
I wasn't going to say the number, but you said it first.
Hey, I don't care.
I mean, that's
I'm proud
what
of
you
it,
do.
man. We should all be proud of our age. Let me just say this with respect to women. I think this idea of not asking a woman her age is just stupid. I don't agree with it. We should be proud of our age. We should be proud of who we are. What is that's another one of these ageism things that we bought into that's a bunch of crap. So anyway.
Because every lady who's much older than me, she always tells me that a true lady never tells her real age. In fact, I know someone that just won't tell me, like the lady who does my skin, my microdermabrasions and all that, she to this day will not tell me how old she is.
So you said something, though, will never tell me their real age. So that means they're lying? That's worse than being honest about telling me.
They haven't said any number.
Okay, you did say real age, though, so that made me think, okay, what, are they lying about it? I guess it's an individual thing, but I still don't agree with it. I just think it's one of these things that what we happen to do in our Western culture is put some sort of negative spin on this number that has no direct correlation to who we are, how we contribute to the world, what great parents, what great employees or employer or whatever. It's like the scale. It's the same arbitrary number that means nothing. But
no, I really like that analogy. No, because you're right. And we should be proud because when we're here and our heart is beating and we're breathing, that means we're here another day and we made it, right? So I like that.
It's part of our dash, right? In our life. Right? It's our legacy.
Maybe because of you, I will actually start telling what the number is.
Let's make it happen today. Let's make it happen right now, Wendy. Let's go.
Let's see what it is. Okay, I'll think about it. Maybe by the end of the podcast, I'll say what the number is. Okay, so I thought what would be really good for our listeners is to kind of go back from the beginning. Let's start when you were about the age of 14, about your upbringing, talk about the influence that your mom had in your life, the influence that your dad had in your life, in terms of how that could relate to really anything you feel comfortable discussing.
Yeah, I'll discuss everything. And I had I would call it a typical childhood because a lot of people that I talk to have very similar trauma in their past. But my mom was a single mom raising 4 children, 2 from one husband, 2 from another husband. But we are brothers and sisters like anybody else in this world. We love each other so much. We talk to each other all the time. And I think it was the trauma that we experienced at that age of 14 was probably the most critical time in my life where I saw my mom getting beat up. I got beat up. My brother got beat up. My sister said, I'm out of here. She dipped out and took off and married the first guy that she fell in love with and left with him. So a lot of that really honestly made me the man that I am today because I had to figure it out, right? I had to figure out how to survive in that environment, not just physically, but emotionally. And relationally, how do you circumvent and navigate these relationships at such a young age that you don't really understand what it's about? Meanwhile, you have your dad over here that's supposed to pick you up every weekend that doesn't show up. So you're wondering what's going on. So there's a lot of confusion there. And you look to other things in your life. And, recently here, Wendy, I've had this epiphany of the fact that my older brother left when he was able to get out. So he got married and took off. And then at the age of 17, I joined the Marine Corps and never really thought about my little brother, my younger brother, Jason, who was left there alone with the same negative energy and the same boyfriend that would beat us all up. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that I reached out to him and I apologized. I said, Bud, man, I'm sorry. I never even once thought of you. It was every man for himself. And we were all just getting the hell out of there. Now, in the meantime, my mom is laying in a bed somewhere in an old folks home just waiting to die. I saw a picture of her the other day. And my prayer is that she does move on to the next phase of her existence, because laying there in that bed is nothing that anyone wants. So it's really weird to look at all of this now, kind of in hindsight, looking back on, man, I'm here today. And my best friend and I were having this conversation yesterday, as a matter of fact. He said, if we were at the age of 14 trying to predict who would end up where they ended up today, none of us would have ever guessed that we would be where we're at, having raised kids and done well in life and all that sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, we should all be at a different place for sure.
I was just going to say, it didn't sound like the odds were in your favor. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was actually going to ask, since your sister had left, I was going to ask sort of who of your siblings did you have to sort of look up to, since your dad wasn't there, as sort of that mentor, I guess, to kind of help you get through all that you survived emotionally and mentally, where you didn't go down that darker path of perhaps drugs, alcohol, self-medicating, if you will, dropping out of school, giving your mom all kinds of problems.
Yeah. Well, I did all that. I did self-medicate, drugs and alcohol. At an early age, I had uncles that were handing me Quaaludes and different things that I shouldn't be doing, crystal meth. At the age of 14, 15, acid, all of this sort of stuff I was doing. And this is a great conversation, because I've never been on a podcast where I've been this detailed about some of the things that I did as a young person. And I'm not glorifying it, and I'm also not condemning it. I'm just saying that was my path in life. But it was my older brother, Rocco, and he got in a lot of trouble. And matter of fact, my older brother, Rocco, is struggling today with some of those things that he carried through his entire life. And he's still doing those things, where I, at the age of 17, when I joined the Marine Corps, it kind of put a pause on that, and it didn't keep me with the momentum that he might have carried it on with. But Rocco was one that always challenged me to be better. Matter of fact, the funny story is, he graduated 4 years before me from this high school, Timken Senior High School in Canton, Ohio, and he was voted the sexiest guy of his class. So I remember one day he sits me down and he's like, listen here, man, there's a tradition in this family. There was no tradition. He was voted the sexiest guy. He's like,
well, your dad married your mom to breed you, you said, right?
So he challenged me to be voted the sexiest guy of Timken Senior High School, and I ended up getting that award. So he's in the paper, the seniors honored in class poll, Rocco Moraro, sexiest, Clark Bartram, sexiest. So I grabbed my little brother, Jason, when it's time for him to graduate. I'm like, listen, there's now a really tradition in this family. You got to be the sexiest guy. He didn't carry it on, though. But,
He didn't carry it. Oh, man, that is so funny. Well, thank you for just being so willing to be vulnerable and transparent and share those very personal things. And to your point about joining the Marines, it sounds like changed the trajectory of your life 100%.
Without a doubt. I remember sitting, it was my cousin and I. He's 23. He was 23. I was 17. And we had partied all night. We were hanging out at our girlfriend's house. We had just woke up. We're sitting there in the morning, drinking a Michelob Light beer, smoking a joint. And I was working at a hospital delivering food. He was working at a gas station. And I looked at him. I said, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? He's like, I don't know. What are you going to do?
This is so hard to picture you.
Oh,
this
is real life. In real life. And I said, why don't we join the Marine Corps? I saw a Marine in the lunchroom yesterday in school. He looked badass and dressed blues. I said, that's what I want to do. Those guys are the toughest guys. He's like, when do you want to join? I'm like, right now. So I remember our girlfriend standing there and said, what are you doing? I said, we're going to go join the Marine Corps. They said, when? I said, right now. We put the lead away.
Hungover and everything.
Went to the recruiter station, and when I got there, they said, you can't join. You're only 17. So it took everything to get my dad to sign. But my mom, right away, she's like, spread your wings, boy. When you leave, your room is gone. You can always crash on the couch, but that's it. When you're out of here, that is it. You're done. I said, I got it. And I never looked back.
So you actually turned 18 in boot camp.
Yep.
And then how far away was boot camp from where you lived? Was it one of those?
Harris Island, South Carolina.
Okay.
I was in Canton, Ohio, so it was a few states away. And it was, matter of fact, we drove home from there. My dad came to see me graduate, and he drove me home when the actual drill instructors wanted to drive me home, because while I was in boot camp, there were a couple deaths that happened to some very important people in my life. And they called me in one time and told me, right now I'm standing there in formation. They're like, Bartram, come in here. And they bring me in, and all the drill instructors are in there. I'm like, this is weird. Something's going on. And they told me that a very good friend of mine had died in a car accident. And my other people were in there. And then my uncle, two of my uncles died, and then they didn't tell me. But they ended up really taking a liking to me because they just talked to me a lot, and I worked my ass off. So the drill instructors wanted to drive me home because they had talked to my mom on the phone, because when she called to tell them, and she was just a big, flirty, beautiful lady, and so they wanted to go meet her. But my dad ended up driving me home from boot camp. So, yeah.
And then what is it that you ended up doing in the Marines? Aside from, I read that you actually got to play rugby, which I think is amazing. I didn't know that was a thing in the Marines. But so was that what you got paid essentially to do that? But then what was your actual role, out of curiosity?
So my MOS, as we call it, military occupational specialty, was 1391, which is a bulk fueler. When I took my ASVAB test, that's the entry test to get in to see where you qualify. Do you want to be a rocket, engineer, or a gas station attendant? Well, I was a gas station attendant, basically. I was the lowest bottom line that you could get, because I wasn't the smartest guy in the world, and I didn't really apply myself. I just filled out this thing real quick, and I wanted to be a heavy equipment operator, but I didn't even score high enough for that. So my job was filling up airplanes and helicopters with gas. You come to find out that if you're in war, that's the first person that goes. Well, one of the first people, because if you take out the fuel, you take out the ability to move. So it was actually a pretty important job that I had, not unknowingly, but I always managed to rise to the top. So while I was doing that job, I would get the attention of the commanding officer, and I end up driving the commanding officer around, or I had these special jobs that they always put me in a place, and I started to figure it out. I'm like, if I work hard, I don't have to work hard, right? If I show up looking like a Marine and acting like a Marine and performing like a Marine, I don't have to do what all the other Marines are doing. I can get special attention. So I figured that out early. So I started to manipulate the system in a way to where I got the easy jobs. I can remember we were out in the desert somewhere doing some sort of event out there, and all my buddies are out there digging holes and making these berms, and I was driving the commanding officer around. I just drive by and wave, and they're flipping.
Clark, how are you getting the easy jobs?
Exactly. How are you finding the girls on the boat? How are you finding? It's like, I just figured it out.
Well, that's what happens when you're voted most sexiest guy.
I guess so.
And pay it off later in your career and in the Marines. So see, your younger brother should have followed suit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, and then my guest last week, William Algren, he is also a Marine. He actually retires officially at the end of next month, which is really exciting. After 21 years of being a drill instructor, one of the things he talked about that I wanted to ask you was about the exit strategy out of the military back into civilian life. He said that's really important. It's not always smooth. So back when you got out, what was the exit strategy, and how did you transition from the military to civilian life?
So unlike William, right? William was his name?
Yeah.
Unlike William, I didn't do 21 years. I only did 3. So there wasn't as much of a dependency on not just the paycheck, but the entire community of people. It's much like an NFL guy retiring from the NFL after a long and successful career. It's hard to leave the locker room. So that's really what William is experiencing now, if I were guessing. It's the locker room. It's the buddies. It's the BSing with each other. It's all of the stuff that you hate while you're in there but you miss when you leave because it's a part of your DNA now. He went in at 17, 18, 19 years old. Now he's established. He grew up in there. He raised a family in there. He learned how to be a man in there. And now it's like, okay, here you go. We're done with you. You're on your own, and you're looking back like, whoa, what's next? So for me, the transition was easy. It was just find a job. Like, I need to find another paycheck. And because I was a physical guy, I went straight to the gym business. And I walked into a family fitness center, which is now 24-hour fitness, and applied for a job. And that set the path for the rest of my life. But
and was that where you met you had talked about meeting a guy named Gonzo that had noticed you and was like, hey, you should be a bodybuilder. Because I like the fact that you went back and you actually named names and you actually thanked people that you've met along the way in your career to get where you're at now. And I think that's really cool. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I can see Gonzo in my mind like it was yesterday. He was a kid from East LA. He always had a Porsche, and I never understood how he had a Porsche in the Marine Corps. He was always big and buff. So as much as I thought I had it figured out, Gonzo really had it figured out because he still had a connection back in LA, and we come to figure out that he may have been having a little extracurricular activity as far as his training. He knew about steroids before any of us knew what steroids was, and he was just jacked. And I remember coming in after it was rugby practice, then we went to the weight room, and there was this mirror. It said something to the effect of, "Are you a good Marine?" or something like that above it. And it was a giant mirror meant for you to stop and take a look at yourself to see if you fit what a Marine description would look like. And I remember me and Gonzo standing in that mirror, and I was probably 165 pounds, but I look identical. Matter of fact, my hair was probably the same. I look identical to what I do now. And Gonzo was all big and jacked up, but I had ab muscles. And he's like, dude, you could be you have what it takes. I'm like, bro, I don't want to look like you. I can remember standing there in that mirror. But he encouraged me, so he started taking me to the gym at the 12 area on Camp Pendleton, and we started lifting weights together, and then suddenly Gonzo disappeared. I don't know whatever happened to him. My guess is
his
got
supplement
kicked out.
shop closed down.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there are a lot of guys in there that I still have connections with, that I still talk to, that I still am grateful for their influence and input in my life. And again, it really kind of led me to this moment in time right now.
And then what about Henry McGee? I wanted to ask you about him at the YMCA.
So it's really interesting because right now, this is blowing my mind. So Henry McGee, I don't know if I should let this cat out of the bag yet because I'm working with a company right now. And you've heard me talk about the story about my bicep. That's what this story is. Well, yesterday on my Instagram stories, I showed a product. And that product was the product that got me started in my fitness career. We unearthed the actual...
Bull grinder?
Huh?
The bull grinder?
The bull worker.
The bull worker, yes. Okay.
Yep. We unearthed the actual real live bull worker that was in the basement of Chris Beadle's house. She gave it to me 10 years ago to bring back here. I took it to my buddy Rich King's house. It was in his basement until the other day. The original, the actual one that we used.
With that old 80s book.
Yes, the actual one that we used. I just got the other day. So I reached out. Anyway, I'll leave it there. So anyway, Henry McGee, I met him in the YMCA, downtown Canton, Ohio, after my friends telling me I was deformed because my bicep looked like this at the age of 14. So I went in there, and he just simply said to me, son, that's not a deformity at all. You could be a champion bodybuilder someday. And he kind of took me under his wing and showed me how to work out. And Canton YMCA, I'll never forget it. It was right across the street from the high school that I went to. And he owns Henry's Dinotorium in Canton, Ohio to this day. I reached out to him when I first started getting into magazines and the internet became a thing and Google was something. I didn't know how to use it. I just Googled it and called him up, and he remembered me. And that man really, as short of a period he was in my life, it was at the time, I was getting beat up by my mom's boyfriend and all that sort of stuff. He was there, and he gave me a couple words of encouragement.
And he believed
here I am today. And what I was telling my buddy yesterday with the whole bull worker thing, This is like 1974 or 6. I don't know what year it is, but it's in the mid 70s. If someone were to tell me in 1974, 75, 76, whenever it was, son, in the year 2022, you're going to be talking to this company that started you out in the industry with this device that I can't even wrap my head around this idea, this thought. It's blown my mind because it's happening right now. I have a meeting with them on Monday to discuss what the next steps are in our relationship. But I owe my career to that freaking device, man, because that's what got me started. That's what made me realize I had muscles. That made me realize I liked being
fit. You didn't realize
guy.
That was going to be a catalyst to where you're at now.
2022. We never thought 2022 we'd be, talking to people on computers then. We'd be having phones that you could talk to people all around. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are, exactly. I love that because back then, like you're saying, you would have never thought that 20 years later, look at what you're doing now. I can't wait to hear more about this.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And they're excited too because I was just, again, on the phone with my buddy in Ohio. He said, Clark, there's not one person on this planet but you that can tell that company this story. Sure, they can hire good-looking, fit people. Sure, they can get people that are great spokespeople. But there's only one person on this planet that has your resume in this industry and that story with that product that goes back that many years, and that thing still exists. You're holding it in your hand.
And what I love is this is defying how you just said, yes, they could get some younger guys who look great and who can represent this product and the brand and the company. But to your point, they're not you, and you're 59 years old. Absolutely love that. It's very motivating and inspiring, especially for men who are over 50, which segues me into wanting to talk about what you're doing now, which I just want to say, I think it's absolutely amazing that I saw one of your Instagram stories last Saturday where you actually had your men, I'm not sure if you were using Zoom, where they were all on a call going through each client, talking about their story, where they're at now, where they want to be. And they were just real people talking about real things. It was very transparent. And I just think it's such a neat thing. It's really beautiful that you share everything that you've learned up to this point and what you've been through to be a mentor to these guys. And what I think is really cool is the principles of the lifestyle that you're really all about, the mindset, meals, movement, community, and supplementation, so that it's not just focusing on one of those pieces, but it's a whole and in that order. So do you want to talk about the significance of those 5 items I talked about and how you came up with those particularly?
Yeah. So we switched the last one. I love the research you've done. It's so impressive. Thank you so much for doing that because a lot of people are not prepared and you are extra prepared. We've recently switched the 5th principle from supplementation to integrity.
Ooh,
so
like
these 5 principles are very important because I've been asked for years, Clark, what's the single most important thing for somebody to get in shape? And most trainers will say nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. I don't agree at all. I think that mindset is the single most important thing that any of us needs to make any sort of change in our life, whether it's a financial, relational, physical, emotional, whatever. We have to have our mind set to do that. So then it goes to the nutrition. So mindset, meals, we teach them how to eat right. What program works good for you? The reality is any diet will work for anybody if they stick with it long enough. So that goes back to the mindset piece.
Well, and I like you said that on your TikTok recently where you had the refrigerator and you said, I don't care if it's keto, paleo, intermittent fasting. You basically said, get rid of all of that. If you're not going to be consistent, it doesn't matter. So I like that you're also not, I'm going to use this word lightly, you're not preaching a certain specific type of diet. It has to be this or you're not going to get results.
No. Whatever's sustainable, that's the key. Someone on one of my Facebook pages yesterday said, I don't understand why people wake up early in the morning, and he gave all these reasons why he doesn't believe that working out in the morning is the greatest thing to do. So I had to come in and interject as we'll call it, owner of that Facebook page and said, bro, listen, whatever works for people works for people. Don't hinder somebody else from doing something because you have an opinion on what the best time to work out is. I said, boys, here's the bottom line. Do what works best for you, period. End of story. We're not even having this discussion anymore. I'm going to erase it off the board because that's what people do. And that goes back to the whole nutritional piece. And the reason I have 5 principles is because people think there's one thing that you need to do. They have this myopic focus, like, if I just cut out carbohydrates, I'm going to get in great shape.
That's a
Well,
huge
you
one.
might, until you can't cut out carbohydrates anymore, then you're going to blow back up and it's just going to fall apart on you. But if you have the mindset, the meals, the movement, and the community is huge, right? So if you have a supportive community, that's why Jenny Craig is so big. That's why Weight Watchers is so big. That's why NA, AA, that's why the church, it's all built on community. And then the last piece is integrity. And it's not necessarily integrity in life as much as it's integrity on reporting what you're doing in those 4 other areas. So if you're being consistent, you've heard me say this because you've done your research, consistency equals results, period.
In every area of our life, honestly. I like that. It doesn't matter if you are going to pay off debt, if you want to become stronger, if you want to start meditating, having better nutrition, any of those areas, if you're not consistent, it's just not going to work. And I really like that. Community is so important because when you are trying to make big changes in your life, whatever those changes might be, if you're around people who are negative, nobody's encouraging you. I mean, you saw that firsthand when you were growing up. It's hard to kind of break those chains and get out of that old mold. So I love the fact that that's one of the things you offer for free, even on your Facebook page.
I've got a community of men that absolutely love each other. A guy said something the other day that really kind of touched my heart. He was talking about me, and he said, how many coaches are there out there that will tell you they love you? And I end every one of my Zoom calls with guys. I used to joking around say, if I haven't told you lately that I love you, I'll get back to you on that. Like, I'll see you again. But the reality has become, I'm seeing more and more of my friends dying right now. I said, I'm going to stop saying that, even flippantly. I'm going to say, if I haven't told you lately that I love you, let me tell you right now, I love you. And I say, I effing love you. Because I do. There were 2 guys here this morning that are in my VIP coaching community. They drive down from Orange County, hour and a half drive, and we just had the greatest time. And it was so cool because we were walking up the hill together, and one of the guys in the group said to the other guy in the group, he was talking about being in AA. And the other guy said, dude, that's how I know you. I was at an AA meeting one time and you were up there sharing. I'm like, wait a minute.
This just
When
happened.
was
They were
this?
with you.
Yes. They didn't know until we were walking up this hill right here. I'm like, this is epic. This is epic. And I just watched their relationship go poof. Now they're like brothers. I'm like, man, I was just this guy in the middle of this thing. Now they're like supporting each other, lifting each other up, texting each other, hanging out together. I'm like, let's go.
But you were a catalyst of that. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to share and to serve other people. The world needs a ton more of that. And so I can't thank you enough for just being a leader and motivating these guys, mentoring them, providing inspiration, just sharing all of the knowledge that you've learned throughout the years.
You know, the reality is, Wendy, I'm not the smartest guy on the planet. There's so many people on the internet that know so much more than me, but you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone else that loves people more than me and really cares about getting them results and is unintimidated by being honest and real and in your face. Because I realized that at the age of 50, 60, 70 years old, you got to have someone to talk straight to you. But you got to have someone to talk straight that's actually living that lifestyle so you can respect and listen to them. And that's why I just continue to work so hard to stay in shape and actually do what I'm telling them to do. Otherwise, they're not going to listen to you.
One of the key words that you just said there is love. I've had plenty of coaches in the fitness industry. No one's ever actually said that. But I think to your point, I think that's why it doesn't work for these big mass coaches that have hundreds of thousands of clients, is you're just getting a template, the same template meal plan that someone else has, same workout plan from somebody else. And there really isn't true love there. All they're really concerned about is the dollar and what's going into their bank account.
Yeah, we're the complete opposite, honestly. And I just had a call today so I hired a bunch of guys to close deals for me, sales guys. And I made them. I said, listen, you need to know me. You need to be in my group. You need to be doing my program. You need to experience what other men are experiencing here so you can sell my program. I don't care who you're selling for. And then when they got in, they're like, dude, we've never, ever seen anyone do anything like what you're doing. And we're doing sales for people that are doing $200,000 a month in business. I'm like, of course I want to make money, right? But I'm not interested in the numbers before the connection. The connection needs to be there. So I need to be able to scale my business in a way that there's still enough of me left for these guys, so every single guy feels the same amount of respect, love, consideration, and all of what they need to feel in this process, because that's part of it. You got to trust the process, man. It's
100%. No, I love that. And I love that you're having your sales guys go through it so that they literally are living it, breathing it, sleeping it, and they can feel it, and they know the point of view and the perspective.
Yeah, they have to. I'm doing a little social media post right here now. So
hey, guys.
Wave to yourself, because you're going to see this later.
Okay. I feel honored to be on your social media, Clark.
Oh, you're awesome.
As we end here, we didn't get to talk about the fact that you're the first person that I've met that got to play the role of Batman in a short film, Dead End. And I actually brought my Batman water cup just for this. So I wanted to hit on that a little bit before we go.
Yeah, I love that. I've got my whole Batman wall right here. If you'd like to see it, I can turn my...
Yeah, why don't you?
Yeah, I'll turn this around and let you see it. Hold on, let me end this here. And I'm not going to tag you, so we just get that done. I'll move a couple things out of the way. So here is the Batman wall. And so these people will send me different. So these are actually me.
Okay. Oh, very cool.
And yeah, this one here, this is the best one. This was made by a sculptor by the name of Henry Alvarez. I remember we were on the set, and he called me over, and he said, "Clark, I need to take some pictures of you." So he started taking all these up close. I mean, we just got done filming a scene, and I'm in the cowl and everything. He's taking all these pictures all around me, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And Sandy Calora, the director of the movie, he's like, "Don't worry about it." So there's only 10 of those in existence. And that thing's probably worth so much money. Say that again?
I said, I'm amazed that he was able to make that from photos. They didn't actually do a cast of your head.
Well, no, so they did a cast of my head for the cowl. I had to do that. That was quite the interesting experience. I've been life casted several times, and it takes a lot of concentration to not go nuts inside of that, because it's scary as hell. But that was, he sculpted that just from the photos. Yeah. So he was a big time Hollywood sculptor, Henry Alvarez. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a fun movie. That Sandy was looking for a bodybuilder that could move, and the quick story is he couldn't find one. He auditioned bunches of guys, and they were just not athletic enough. And he was kind of getting ready to call it a day when he was in a Starbucks and saw a business card from my buddy Jason Ellis, the king of covers.
Oh, yes, Jason, the king of covers, of course.
Yeah.
Mutual friend of ours.
So he called Jason and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a guy." And he described this Batman character. He's got it, boom, boom, and he did all this. And then he ended with, he needs to be 6 feet tall. Well, I'm only 5'8". So
5'8.5"
Jason
in a day.
Yeah, exactly. He says, "I know a guy." So I just called up Sandy, and he said, "Dude, come to Burbank and meet me." So I went and met him, and it was history after that. We hit it off, and this thing was such a big deal at Comic-Con, and they called me into Warner Brothers and DC Comics, and I'll end with this. For 90%, I'm certain that Christian Bale copied my voice for his portrayal of Batman, because I have absolute evidence of the fact that he left Warner Brothers with a DVD of Dead End, and there were pictures of me all around the art department. And when I watch that movie, I can hear him trying to sound like me when I was doing the Batman thing. So anyway, fun stuff.
Christian Bale, if you're listening.
Yeah. Admit it, Christian Bale.
Admit it.
Me. Yep.
All right. So to wrap this up, tell me one of your favorite quotes from The Shawshank Redemption, and why is that important to you?
Well, it's get busy living or get busy dying. It's such a good movie with such a great story behind it. And that scene specifically, when he says that, man, it really resonated with me. And when I started coaching men over 50, I realized that most men over 50 are getting busy dying because they think life is over. They think,
They
based
do.
upon what we had talked about earlier, this concept of after 50, life is over with. And I'm like, no, man, you've raised your family, you've made your money, you've done everything, but you haven't achieved the body that maybe you had in college or high school when you were an athlete, or what you've envisioned in your mind. But now's the perfect time to do it. So let's get busy living. So that's become the mantra of what we do. And so many guys have taken ownership of that. And I always throw it back to Shawshank, because that's really what it comes down to. And I put off the end of it because I don't even want to think about that. I don't want to get busy dying, because until we make a decision to get busy living, that's the reality. We're going to be looking at all of our friends in the obituaries. We're going to be talking about people who are no longer here. Those are conversations that I don't want to have. I want to play football. I want to run around. I want to jump and have fun. So after this, shoot, I might go to the beach. I might go toss a football around. I might go do another workout. But I'm certainly not going to sit here and go, I'm just waiting to die. That's not me at all.
Yeah, it's really sad when I hear people say that, men and women.
It's conditioned behavior. It's what we've been taught. You know, at the age of 14, I thought in 2022, shoot, I'll be almost 60 years old. Oh my God, I'll be done with. Never in a million years would I have been able to wrap my little brain around the fact that I would be in the best shape of my life, feeling as good as I do at such an old age, right?
That's such an old age for an old guy. Yeah. And the last thing I was going to ask you about is if your kids took interest in health and fitness the way you did, because what a great role model. I mean, it sounds like you did and do, and you are everything that you didn't have growing up. So I think that's amazing, especially for them to have that.
Yeah, Wendy, I just picked up my daughter from the airport the other day. She was in St. Louis, and I always say she's the best athlete of the family. And I was telling her that when I was bringing her home from the airport. She just won a dance competition, and she does pole dance. So I don't know how much you know about that activity, but it's not in a strip club. It's actual acrobatic strength, I guess the ability to dance and all that sort of stuff. But it takes a strong person to do that. So she won this competition, and I said, Taylor, I knew you were going to win because you're always the best at everything. She's got such a competitor's heart. My son was a full ride scholarship athlete as a quarterback in football, and that's one of the hardest positions you'll ever play in any sport because you have to be smart as well as tough. So they're both very, very active in fitness in their own way. My son now is taking an interest more in lifting weights. He wants to get buff now where he never wanted to be buff before. Because I can't imagine what it was like when he was in high school and I was the strength and conditioning coach for his football team. All the kids saying, why don't you look like your dad? He probably hated it then. But now he's starting to embrace it. So that's cool.
He's like, hey, Dad, can we lift now?
Yeah.
And then one of the things that I wanted to touch on a bit too was your product Nanotest.
No longer in existence. I don't even know what that is. It's not a thing in my life anymore. It's gone.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm creating a new version of a natural test booster, and it's right here. These are the final samples, and this is a little hint to your audience that what it's going to be.
So it looks like a gummy.
Yep. This is sample number 5 right here. Gen 5. So you can see how many different versions I've gone through. Matter of fact, I'm going to take these right now. And this is just packed. Like you're getting exclusives here, Wendy. I don't think you understand the whole Bullworker thing and this. Nobody's ever getting behind the curtain like this. Smells good? Yeah.
Can I have one?
Yep.
No, I love it. I think everything that you're doing is amazing. You have knocked down doors. You have overcome barriers and obstacles. I mean, I love that you are a man of action. When you say you're going to do something, you're doing it. When you said you were going to write a book, the books are out. It's not that you're thinking about doing it. You just have so much energy. I think age definitely, like we were talking about in the beginning, it literally is just a number, especially with you, and you're proof of that.
Well, I appreciate those kind words very much. This is so much fun. I'll do this anytime you want to do it. I'm all about just, doing my best to put good energy out there.
Yeah, we might have to do this more often. In fact, I was asking a couple of other industry buddies of mine if they knew you. Kevin Lawrence, CEO and founder of Power Crunch. I'm going to have him on later.
Okay.
And then Barry Turner, CEO and founder of Lenny and Larry's Protein Cookies.
You need to hook me up with some of these people. We got to make some connections.
Heck yeah, absolutely. And Jason
We need
Ellis.
to talk. We need to talk offline about some sort of you be my manager and connect me with some of these people and make relationships happen.
Hey, glory to God. That's all I have to say.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, Clark. Thank you again so very much. Again, I can't thank you enough for serving and for sharing your story. You are definitely, one of the things I love is you're just so relatable. You are the guy that any other man out there, regardless of their age, can just look at and go, hey, I can be like him, you know?
And it's possible too. And if any man wants to, just go to my website, maximizemanelite.com, and check it out and decide whether or not you want to fill in the form to book a call with one of my strategy coaches, and we'll see what's next.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. All right, Clark. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Nice double biceps there. And we'll talk offline.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
See y'all.